Hello, everybody. My name is Todd Wall, and welcome to Communication Breakthrough, where we believe that intentional communication will lead to the breakthrough that you're looking for, both in your business and in your life. Today's episode is one that is near and dear to my heart as a communication coach because it is about speaking and communicating specifically for influence and authority. Because if we're going to get over the emotions of speaking, whether in a boardroom, a meeting, or on a stage, if we're going to push past the emotions, hey, we might as well do it right. And if you knew that just little tactical changes can make all the difference, you'd kind of want to do that, wouldn't you? Well, stick around. Let's jump right into it, and let's find some of those little things you can do that can make the biggest difference in your speaking for influence and authority. Let's go. All right. I'm so glad you are here. This episode is going to be one of my absolute favorites as a communication coach, because it's not just on getting on stage. It's not just getting in front of people. It's how you do things, the tactical way that you approach your communication makes all the difference. Because remember, we believe that intentional communication leads to the breakthrough that you're looking for. So there's intentional steps on how to communicate, from the pacing in which we talk, to the mannerisms, to our facial expression. So today, I can't wait to jump in with another one of our experts, Deirdre Breakenridge of the Influential Communicator. And let me bring her on now. Deirdre, man, both of us, I know we love talking about this stuff.
Yes, we do, Todd. So good to be here.
This is what keeps us employed, because this is so important. These practical frameworks that a communicator can operate through to get past the emotions, to get past the nervousness,
nerves, yes,
to get past the stumbling and the bumbling and I can't believe I said it that way. There's a technique to all of this stuff, and it is the art of communication. Absolutely. So let's jump right into it, and let's give them as much practical information as we can. Deirdre, you said there's 4 C's to bringing influence and speaking with influence. First, give us the 4 C's, and then we're going to spread that out over 2 segments, because we're going to get as detailed and drill down as much as we possibly can. So what are the 4 C's?
Well, the first C is calm. Second is clear. Then there's concise. And the last one is confident. It's confident in how you feel, but it's also people being confident in you when you speak.
I love that it starts with calm, because before you get up to speak, or if you've got a big meeting with a potential client that you know is upset, you're going to be nervous. Your pulse is pounding. You begin sweating. I mean, all the nerves start having all the nerve reactions. But the pro does what?
Breathes properly.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's breathing. It's breathing from your diaphragm. It's understanding that when your breath is in your chest and you get nervous and you try to speak, your words come out of your throat. And when your words come out of your throat, it doesn't sound good. You don't sound confident at all. You don't come across well. So when you're belly breathing, or breathing from the diaphragm.
Oh, it's diaphragm. Deirdre, when I was a kid, I always thought it was the diagram. Okay, so the diaphragm is that from your belly.
From your belly. Right, because if you're belly breathing and you get a surge of excitement, the air goes up into your chest, you can still speak. And then you get it lower again, and that's when you sound as you come across with authority.
So I want to be mindful of not keeping my breath in my chest, or especially breath in my throat, where I'm just a minute, let me finish my thought. but you want to be mindful to bring it down lower. And I've heard singers talk about that and
Yes.
performers. So how do you do that? Because I'm totally confused. I don't know how to do it. How do you do it?
Well, there's a simple test that you can do. You put your hand on your chest, you put your hand on your stomach, and you breathe in. You time yourself for 30 seconds. And as you're breathing, you pay attention to your hands. And at the end of the 30 seconds, which hand moved more? If your hand on your chest is moving more than your hand on your stomach, it means you're thoracic and you want to force the air lower. Because when you're breathing from your belly, that means when you breathe in, your stomach expands. When you breathe out, it contracts. And that hand should be moving. So that's the test, just to check out how am I breathing? And you want to do that frequently.
I mean, so is even being mindful of even practicing moving your belly in and out. I know my belly moves out after a nice pizza, but it's being mindful to let that thing come in and out because it doesn't always come natural, but just really almost exercising
on it. Exactly. You have to focus on it. What I tend to do is once you learn the breathing technique, part of also being calm is being present. And what you can do is you check in on your breath. That's number one. But then you take it further. In the moment, you say, what do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I feel? My arms are on a chair. What does that feel like? If I can bring all of that together, then I know I'm present. And if I'm breathing properly, I'm calm.
Absolutely. I love that. I really need to speak into it just a little bit because it's also important to know your message framework ahead of time so that you're not in your head in that moment either and thinking about what do I need to say so you can actually be present in that moment. You're an extension of your message. When you become an extension of your message, you are the message, things can calm down.
That's right.
You can
and when you're calm, you're in your rational thinking center. So you're in the front part of your brain. Whatever it is that you have, whatever input you've taken, whatever messages, whatever you believe, whatever you've learned, it's there. And when you're relaxed, it's a lot easier for it to come out.
Athletes talk about it. They say they let the game slows down. So this mindful, this calm is let the room slow down.
Yes.
Let that moment just take a beat back and just maybe at the beginning of the message, maybe talk a little bit slower at the beginning.
Right. And if you're breathing properly, you automatically speak slower because when you're nervous, your voice goes higher. So if you sound nervous, you speed up. So, and your cadence is quicker. Those are all the signs of nerves and not feeling comfortable. And your breathing can make you calm and comfortable.
Yeah. And that's the gateway to everything. If we're calmer, we're going to communicate better. Okay. What's the next C?
Clear.
Okay.
Being clear, crisp and clear. This a lot has to do with your voice, the way it sounds. Now, we just talked about breathing. When you're breathing properly, your voice sounds better. You're able to enunciate your pitch. You can modulate. You can go from the highs in your range to the low. And that doesn't mean upspeak. It's not that you're going up and higher at the end of every sentence, which sounds as if you're questioning and not the expert. But being clear really is about your voice and how you come across clearly.
So we get practical. It's monitoring your pace, taking time to actually get the word out of your mouth.
Yes. The sounds,
focusing on allowing the sounds to get out of your mouth.
Enunciating. So you're enunciating, and then you're working your pitch. The best presenters, they know how to use the highs and the lows of their voice. When I go higher, I'm so excited. I'm in my high range. I'm probably a mezzo soprano. When I want to make a point about calm, clear, concise, confident, my voice goes lower. I'm using my voice. And when someone is presenting and they do that naturally, they're more engaging.
Absolutely. You get some speakers who they want to connect with the audience, so they use that whisper voice the whole time. And they're just, "Hey guys, I just want to," but
That's
then
a
you got
technique, but not all the time.
all the time.
No.
You have to vary it up to bring, because your tone also is part of your words. Like Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator, he
I
said,
interviewed him.
"Oh, did you?" Yeah, he talks
Yes.
about that FM DJ voice. He said,
Yes, that's in his book.
you just kind of go slower, and you just talk a little, and you go deeper, and I love just that speaks to that variation. It's extremely. I was coaching someone yesterday from Latin America, and he's Gen Z, and I said, that FM DJ voice. He goes, "FM, what's that?" And so I had to visually show it to him what it actually was.
That makes people feel a little calmer and comfortable. If you notice someone is nervous or feeling a little overwhelmed, if you change your voice and go to the DJ FM voice, it helps them to feel comfortable. Open your body language. It's that sound of your voice and the openness, it's receptivity.
So there's clarity in the enunciation of the words that come out of your mouth, but then you're pacing the highs and lows, the tone. You're controlling the emotional tone, which is also just as much clarity.
Sure.
It's even that phrase, be a thermostat and not a thermometer.
Right.
So you can the clarity
Turning it on and off.
Yeah.
And you're doing that with your voice projection as well. So when you mention someone who goes to the lower whisper, that's a way to lower the projection. There's going to be times when you're going to raise it up for something you're saying or walk it back. That too is a part of clear, because it helps the message. It helps the emphasis.
Absolutely. And even the power pause.
Yes, the pause. Yes.
When you're about to say something you want them to remember, and remember, there's
and no filler words, no annoying fillers.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. The filler that's driving me crazy these days is when people use the word "right" as a sentence. Right? No, what you just made me question. Should I have known something? Wait, did I not know something? Now I'm insecure. You just said right because I should have known this, but I don't know this. Wait, you're the expert. Shouldn't you be speaking? So that's
become popular. That right was never an annoying filler word until recently.
I'm just kidding.
Another one? So that has become one of the number one annoying filler words among B2B professionals. Why, I don't know, but the word so. Starting a sentence with so every single time.
So I think we should go to a commercial break and continue this. Okay. So will you stick with me so that the audience can hear more of this?
Absolutely.
All right, fantastic. So everyone, please stick with us, and you can hear more of the C's, right? Be right back. All right, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. I love getting super tactical with this stuff because once you learn these little leverage points, it's just like karate. When you figure out that one thing that when you touch the wrist this way and turn it that way and that person flips, it's the same thing with communication. Intentional actions create intentional results. So let me bring Deirdre back on. Deirdre, let's jump straight into this because I want to hear the other two C's. So it is concise and confident.
Yes.
So before you go into concise, I got to tell you a quick story. I was coaching someone yesterday, again, from Latin America, and he said, he didn't feel like an authority. And so he found himself just rambling and using all this jargon to establish credibility. And so you tell me if I'm right, this definition of concise, what leads us to getting there, it's really controlling our insecurities at the end of the day. I think that's my guess. So I'm eager to hear what you say. I have to say.
Yes. So controlling the nerves, the insecurities, definitely. Concise is a way to give the most important information. And I have created an acronym, Concise, and each letter stands for something different. The first C is condensed. It's understanding you might only have a minute. You're going to put forward your most meaningful words. The O is organized. You have organized thought so that it flows out in a way that's important to your audience. The N is that you tell yourself you're not going to use, so no annoying fillers. The second C is a cutoff rate, which means you have to understand how much time you have to deliver information before someone cuts you off. And then the I in concise is important. It's important information. And you have to think about how somebody else is feeling. And just because you want to give a message doesn't mean their brain is going to accept it if they're stressed. And then, of course, the last part is S and E. That has to do with a strategy to put your messages together so that there's stories, stats, and sound bites, and they're memorable. And then lastly is give good examples. That together is concise.
I love that. I think there's so much power in acronyms and frameworks specifically. They allow us, they show us the path where we're going. Therefore, we don't feel like we're looking for direction, which often causes us to meander and our words to continue. Deirdre, I had one time, I love the cutoff in the C cutoff. I had one time when I was a young speaker, I kept going and going and going. I had an important point to make. So I kept going and going and going. They turned off my microphone. I kept going. I was like, oh, technical problem. Speak louder. And I spoke louder and I kept going. They turned the lights off.
Oh, no.
And I kept going. Oh, technical problem. Keep going, going. So yes, you must be mindful of the time because your audience is.
Exactly. And that comes out of TV and watching. A producer says to the host of a show, the guest is on for 4 minutes. That's 4 questions, 60 seconds per question. Then we go to a commercial. So you have to be concise. The host will cut the guest off. That's where I learned it. You absolutely have to fit into a time frame. Know the cutoff.
So what's the practical way? Well, so of this acronym, when you coach your clients, and you lead the seminars and the sessions that you have, which one comes out the most often? Which is the most well-worn tool within this tool shed?
I think it is understanding the cutoff. That's the most important because that covers from the rambling to getting the answer tight and specific. It's almost like you're crafting a thesis statement that you're delivering. I would say cutoff would be the one.
I would absolutely agree because you're worried you're going to go because everyone the emotion is I don't have anything to say. That's the most common thing we hear is what do I have to say? I don't have anything to say. Therefore, they stack their message with so many quotes and data and all this stuff, and so they feel like they've got to rush. And
there's another one though that I do want to mention that's a close second. It's the organized thought.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, the way somebody asks you something or whatever you want to deliver, get to the point first and then fill with the reasons. Most people, and especially marketers, we want to tell this story to get to the build. Well, does everybody have time for that build? You might want to get to the point and then give some reasons and stop. If somebody's really interested, they'll ask you for more of the details.
That is great. I love that. If you work within a framework that can lead you from place to place, I think that's a great point. You don't want anything elaborate, but a simplified form so you're connected. The ultimate goal is connecting to the audience.
Right.
So it's how concise can you be and still be able to get that message across. Okay. The fourth C is confident.
Yes.
And unless you're an extreme introvert, you do not feel confident. So we need your instruction on this.
Well, I think a lot has to do with the first C's. And then It's getting into alignment. So if you're doing the proper breathing and you're feeling calm, and then your voice, because of the breathing and you're relaxing, your voice sounds better and you're working your voice and you're relaxed, your words are coming out the right way. The last piece of confident is your body. What is your body doing as you're speaking? Is your body congruent with the words you're sharing and how good your voice sounds? That will show when you get into what I call flow, complete alignment, verbal, nonverbal cues, then people can have confidence in you.
That flow, that is a great picture. So, I the first thing that came to my mind was that fantastic line from Talladega Nights where Ricky Bobby's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. So when you're talking and you're on stage and you're just like your hands are frozen, am I congruent? Am I in flow right
You're
now?
not, no, you're not. If your hands are frozen and you're speaking, you're not in flow.
I don't know what to do with my hands. So teach me flow. How do I become an extension of my words as I'm calm, I'm slowing down, I'm setting the pace of my words? How do I just let it, how do I do it?
What you're doing, so even though you're calm, you still have energy. You have a calm, assertive energy about you. And when you embrace that energy, it starts to flow. When your body is congruent, it naturally comes out of your hands, not mercy hands, but this is the best positioning for hands. It's in the truth plane. I'm relaxed. My hands are open. So your hands begin to punctuate. As you speak, your hands move and they're in sync with what you're saying. That's how you know it's flow.
I need you to describe one other thing. You said it's in the truth plane. Like everyone knows this phrase. So what is the truth plane? Because that's very tactical and very important. So describe more what you are actually doing and what the impact of that is.
The truth plane is an area where you use your hands. It's a natural place that when you're going to punctuate or your energy comes out, it's between your chin and your waist. And when you're in this plane and your hands are open, it's trust. For whatever reason, people want to see your hands. Your hands show how you're feeling. I can use my hands to be pointed. There's presidents who speak like this, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with it. You can use your hands. Some speakers speak this way. It's an extension of how you're feeling and what your energy is like and how comfortable you are based on what you're saying.
So some people they'll deal with their emotion. They'll stick their hands in their pocket, and
Yes, and that's hiding hands.
because what do you have in your pocket?
Right. What are you hiding? Why would your hands go away? You can tell when somebody's speaking, especially if you're in person with them and you're seated at a table and you're talking, the hands are going, and then they hit a topic and the hand goes underneath or something changes. I tend to baseline people when I speak with them. I have open conversation. I look at the way they move their bodies, the sound of their voice, the speed. And then when something happens, if there's a shift, I'll notice in a little cluster why your head positioning changed, why your eye accessing changed, why did you look down, why did your hands disappear?
Yeah.
Something is uncomfortable.
Let me bring in our next 2 minutes. I think one of the biggest self-sabotage areas of confidence in speaking is the use of the microphone. How often do you hear when someone will come on stage and go, do I even need to use this microphone? And whether you're at the PTA board or where you're at, and I'm always in my head going, yes, you need to use the microphone. Have you noticed that same trend?
It doesn't feel like a natural extension of your hand. So
Yeah.
people tend to have this microphone, it's too close to their mouth, or it's too far away, or it's flying away with their hand movements. It's just awkward. I find people do better when they're mic'd up with the little lav microphone. But that handheld, it's practice. It's getting used to. It's not natural.
But I just want to encourage everybody: if someone hands you a handheld microphone, don't sit it down and say, "You do." Can you guys hear me? Because no, they can't. Own your moment.
Got to own it.
Be confident. And even if you feel awkward, you will get more comfortable with that handheld microphone. But your words are,
And breathe.
and breathe. Yes. That goes back
Breathe.
into the first C and
Yes.
breathing into that. Boy, this was so good, Deirdre. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And you
Thank you.
give a lot of these tips in your newsletter every month,
Yes.
and people can get on that in LinkedIn. Deirdre,
Yes. Connect with me on LinkedIn too. That would
yeah.
be great.
So your newsletter is fantastic for this, and people can work one-on-one with you. Deirdre, thank you so much for this. I love
Thank
these
you.
practical tips.
It was great chatting with you. Thank you.
I love it. Can't wait to have you on the show again. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
And we'll see you right after the break. Stick with us. We've got more of these practical tips right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. So here's the reality. You've got a message to speak, but if you don't speak with authority, sometimes it just feels like you're kind of yelling into an empty cavern. So how can you really bring in the elements of really communicating the core of who you are? And it really comes down to intentional communication. There are intentional techniques and necessary steps to really bring the authority of that message you have inside of you, or the message you just need to communicate corporately. So my next guest today is Benny Salas of the Speak More Academy and the host of Center Stage. What I love about bringing Benny on is he's also started a mastermind on the Center Stage, and it's all about bringing your authoritative message to the forefront, standing in that spotlight that you really deserve. And so let me bring him on now. Benny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for, again, bringing me on this topic. This is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about. You and I have spent time just on phone calls, going back and forth, sharing ideas and experiences. So I'm really thrilled to be on this call today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not even afraid to announce that, Benny, you are my personal coach, and I'm proud of that. You are actually on our very first pilot episode of this show. So I'm so excited to bring you back on, because this intentional communication, it doesn't just happen naturally. I mean, you got these extreme introverts that can just go and talk and talk and talk and talk, but it doesn't mean that message is connecting or they're bringing any authority with them. Benny, some people, as soon as they walk on stage or they walk in that boardroom, you can feel that authority they've got with them. There's just like the room temperature changes a little bit. Yeah. And so with your program with Center Stage, that's one of the things you really focus on, of, bringing your authority. And there's some really critical elements to that. So talk to me a little bit about bringing authority.
Yeah, when I think about bringing authority, I think of somebody who is in a position to make decisions, right? A decision maker. I think of somebody who people see as a leader. They see them as a voice to set, as you said, set the temperature in the room, right? Like, for example, my kids don't ever change the temperature in the room. You want to know why? Because it's already set, and they know that we don't like it any other way. My son thinks he's the authority in my car for some reason. He likes to change the radio station on me or the song on Spotify. But when I think of authority, I think of somebody who is just in a position of decision. And so when that person steps into their authority, it's not about, I'm the boss, you do what I say. No, I think authority looks different for many people. I think it looks like somebody who is unafraid, somebody who knows what they're doing. When you think of someone who has authority, you think confidence, you think clarity, you think the ability to communicate. There's all of these attributes that coincide with someone who is in a place of authority. You think of respect, right? And again, like you said, you can see somebody walk in the room, and the way that they walk in the room, they could command respect before they even say anything. So authority isn't just about imposing your will, but it's about allowing the room and allowing the space to offer what it is that you're bringing to the table.
And the illustration of your son changing the radio station, that's a perfect illustration, because whatever room you go into, there's going to be somebody else that wants to steal that authority from you, that also wants to control that thermostat. And so there is there's a self-regulation, a confidence that is necessary so you don't get rattled and you can handle it. So let's get practical. How does a person speak and carry that authority?
Yeah, I think when someone carries and speaks with that level of authority, I think they know not just what they're talking about, but why they're talking about it. I think it's anybody can get in front of an audience, can get in front of a group, can throw out a word or a message, and it could just be talk. But when you are conversing with somebody, or you are in proximity of somebody who is in authority, sometimes it's not what they're saying that impacts you. Sometimes it's even just holding the space on how they listen. And so a great one of the greatest things that I feel like is so important if you are going to establish authority, it's not just being the one who's controlling or demanding. I think it's the one who knows how to read the room. I feel like one of the gifts that I have as a communicator and a speaker is my ability to listen. It's my ability to really lean in and learn. And what that does is that gives me a leg up in the conversation, because I like to say the smartest person in the room is the one who can identify the smartest people in the room. That's the smartest person in the room, right? It's knowing who's there.
So would you say first it begins with body language and how you carry yourself? Because you talked about first listening, and there's a posture of listening that shows that not a submissive, but still shows that authority, but then listening to the room. So talk me through both that body language and then how to read the room.
Yeah. So I think I'll start off with reading the room. I've been around some amazing business owners, thought leaders, professionals, practitioners, and just because they had significance didn't mean they had authority. Just because they were there and they were successful doesn't necessarily mean they have authority. I think when you position yourself as someone who is an authority person, even kindness is a form of authority. It really, really is. Because when you start winning people over with kindness, you start winning them over. Like, it's not the person who comes in and starts throwing things around and everything needs to be like, no, no, no. I think it's the person who feels confident. I think even letting other people step in front says a great thing about your authority. I think that's one of the things that I learned when I started to really understand who I was and how I best operate, that I had to let others shine before me. Even our event where we did, and we'll talk about it some more, around center stage, was really about putting the spotlight on other people. It wasn't just about me, because I understand as an authority figure, nobody wants to feel like they're just under somebody. People want to feel like they're alongside somebody. And an authority figure allows people to walk alongside them because they're not intimidated. They're not living in fear. They're not insecure. I'm not saying those things don't manifest, and I'm not saying those things don't show up. But when they do show up, you know how to temper it. You know how to redirect it. You know how to also, check yourself. Like, I love finding the strongest people in the room and connecting with them, because I want to look at it more from what can I learn from them and learn about them, more than, oh, you don't know what I know, and I'm the guy, I need to be the guy here. And when you find people like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody sees them in authority, even though that's how they may see themselves.
So is it creating partnerships within the room? So you like the show Survivor, you're creating alliances. So you kind of broaden your platform. Is that kind of what you're speaking to? Or
Yeah, I think whether you're networking or even when you're speaking on stage, you're forming partnerships in that room. There are people there. And so you have to say certain things. If I say something that doesn't feel like I owned it, and I'm just throwing a concept that I'm not sure about, it doesn't establish me as an authority figure. You may see me as somebody who's a little weak. You may see me as somebody who's unsure. That doesn't mean that I'm established as an authority figure because I speak about something that's strong or powerful. Part of it is connecting, it's co-creating and designing the alliance with my audience by my words, my body language, by the stories that I use, by my call to action, everything within the context, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes, it's not the point. I can establish that authority very early on. And I've done that. I've seen this about me, where depending on the timing and the framing of the conversation, I can establish authority really quick, or I can establish it over a period of time. I think this is where you, in your confidence, have to understand. And so when you see people trying to establish authority really quick, people feel like they weren't heard, or they may feel like that person's a little overly aggressive. You got to be able to read the room. You got to be able to take the temperature. You got to be able to understand that everybody is different. Everybody doesn't see it the same way. You and I met. I wasn't trying to establish authority with you. I was just trying to establish a connection and a relationship. And then you saw something. Then I saw something. Then we started to, then we coached. And then, so I think a part of it isn't about authority, isn't me over you. It's actually me alongside you. I think that's effective authority.
I really like that. And if I can really boil it down, it begins with that connection with you as a person, so that in those insecurities, even when they well up, you can control them. You're connected to who you are. So you carry that presence, but then we're not just talking at people in authority. So it's the connection to individuals, whether through networking or the relationships, so you know the volume you need to bring. You need to know the pressure you need to bring. You need to know if you need to come soft, if you need to ask questions and an indirect approach, or if you need to be really clear cut and direct, because your audience receives information differently. Am I paraphrasing that well?
You nailed it, and I think that's really the case. When somebody is hearing you speak, whether that's doing a workshop, a training, a keynote, podcast, an avenue like we're on, whichever platform you're on, I think you have to see it more as what makes you an authority figure is not getting on the stage. Anybody can get on the stage. Anybody can get in front of an audience, but it doesn't mean that people are actually receiving. How many times have you sat in a talk, a conversation, a speaker, and while they may have given their story and maybe given some insight, you didn't see them as an authority figure. So you didn't follow up, you didn't follow, you didn't respond to their call to action. You might not even, you might think, well, I think there's somebody better out there. I think part of establishing your authority figureness, right, if that's a word, but establishing your authority presence is being confident in what you're doing and understanding that you have something that has value. And I think, Todd, that's one of the hardest things to do. That's why most people won't speak. You want to know why? Because they don't see themselves as somebody who has authority. They don't see themselves as an expert. They don't see themselves as someone who adds value. So there's all of these things that are undermining your authority before you even establish it.
And Benny, will you stick with me onto the next break? Because on that note, you speak a lot about that owning your internal story and your message and allowing that to come out. So right after the break, will you stick with us and talk us through that?
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, stick with us. You do not want to miss this about how to own your internal story. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. You do not want to miss this. This mastermind that Benny leads is on Center Stage is about owning your stage, your story, and your spotlight. And that's all about bringing in that authority. So I really want him to jump right into this. Benny, I love the cause you're fighting for with Center Stage and the mastermind that you've just started around it, and Speak More Academy in general. I love the cause because so many people have that message in them, but honestly, they're not owning it.
Yeah.
So how do you lead that person? First, talk to me about the process of owning your message.
Yeah. Whew. Man, you're going there already. Okay. So I think the process of owning your message is taking your story and then asking yourself, what's the bigger picture, right? So the messaging, Nike is really good. I think we mentioned this before, I think on our last podcast, or I've mentioned it before on other podcasts. Nike is really good at telling you a story. They never tell you how much the gym shoes cost, how much the pants cost, the sweater, the gear, the running, and they don't share any of that stuff. You know what they do is they tell you a story. And at the end of that story, what's the message they tell you? Is just do it. Just do it. The reason why we do that is because part of our story, many people are sitting in their story instead of standing on their message. That's what I call a sticky note right there, okay? People are sitting in their story and they're not standing on their message. Part of your message is really understanding that part of your story leads to something bigger. Our message should be able to not only invite people into the next step, it should from beginning to end, what I like to call, communicate something that we know is powerful, to connect our stories, to captivate their attention, and then to call them to action. If we can do those four elements, and this is what I teach in our academy, this is what I teach for Center Stage. It's really around those four components. And so when somebody has to communicate a message, you first have to understand that you have something to say. Most people keep talking themselves out of the thing that they actually keep wanting to speak about. And so, can you imagine you have a message, you've gone through a life experience, you've had an aha breakthrough, you've worked. Listen, you want to help somebody because you understand something that has value. So, if you know that and in your mind you're playing that over and over and over again, you probably have a message that you haven't built on. And so, the first thing that I think is evident, or that needs to become evident, is that you have to talk about what you talk about. If I can't find you talking about these topics, this was hard for me as a business owner, because I had so many things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about this, and trust me, at time I get that kind of like, FOMO. I'm like, oh man, they talked about that topic, I could talk about that even better. But that's not my message. I have to really understand the branding. Can you imagine if, and I'm trying to think who was it? There was somebody who I think, oh man, I forgot what it was. Anyways, the point was somebody who was very famous for one thing tried something else and it totally flopped. And the reason why is that people did not connect with their message on a different product. So if you have something that you talk about and that you help people about, stay in that authority. Build yourself as an authority figure, as an expert, as a practitioner, as a thought leader. This is where you like, here's the problem that we do. And I know you want to jump in. Don't go wider, go deeper. Don't always go. It's not always about going wider. It's about going deeper with the message that you currently have and that you can double down on.
So what burns in a lot of people is their story. And what you're saying is go deeper than just the surface story, and use the story as a tool for the greater message.
100%.
And then I'm also hearing you say, stay on that same message consistently, because the more often you communicate that same message, the more authority you're going to bring, because you just know it, you've internalized it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. So when I was doing this training, we had a Center Stage event. It was June 11th and 12th, I think it was, right? June 10th and 11th, something like that, 7th and 8th. I can't even remember if it was just last month. June 7th and 8th, we had a Center Stage event. And in the training, I told people you need to create one-liners. The reason why you have to create one-liners is because you have to establish authority that people can connect to quickly. I said, you have to create what I call sticky notes, right? When you have a sticky note, the goal of a sticky note is to remind you of something bigger, okay? In your message, in your delivery, you have to create what I call these sticky notes of talking points. Now, each one of your talking points, I'm absolutely convinced of this, Todd, okay? People may disagree with me, and I'm okay. Each one of your talking points in your message should be able to be broken down into micro messages. The reason why is because they may say, man, I love when you talked about that. Can you talk more about that? Yes, I can. So you have to construct and design your message that everything that you talk about has to have a pathway to either a product, program, or service. It has to go deeper. So if people start to think like this, they will be content creating machines.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. With my students, I do that same thing. I'm saying, I want you to continually collect your principles. Collect those short little things that when you say it, is like people turn their head a little bit.
100%.
And it makes them, go, what did you just say? And so that memorable phrase, because people will walk away with that if it's memorable and it's sticky. So how do you create a sticky note?
So I have a friend, his name is DJ Ray Rock, Raymond Castro. And Ray, he's the DJ for Andy Mineo, okay? He said, Benny, do you have a phrase that pays? Do you have a phrase that pays? I said, what is that? That sounds really, really good. He goes, what's that one thing that you say that automatically people know, oh, that sounds like Benny, right? What's that sticky note? So one is you have to take a big idea and you have to condense it into like two to maybe 4 words. If you could get that one word, it's even better. If you get that 2 words, even more powerful. So you got to think about that phrase that pays, right? Like Andy had one, he had a great song that went multi-platinum, I think. It was called Coming In Hot, right? Coming in hot, 3 words, right? Now you could take that however you want, right? But he had a phrase that pays. Nike has one, just do it. Apple has one, think different, right? So
You know what's interesting, Benny, is because you worked with me on this same thing, and when you find those sticky notes, it resonates with you. It's like
100%.
when you say it out loud, you go, "Did I just? Whoa!" I
Yeah.
felt that when I said that. Like so for me, when you and I were working, and I said, it's connection that converts. It's connection with people that converts. And you paused, and I started crying,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh my God, that is it."
Well,
That's the phrase that pays.
and here's the thing. That right there, what that was real coaching, because I didn't give it to you. You gave
No.
it to me. I just showed it back to you what you gave me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the active listening part that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Right? That like we can talk about this stuff, but you and I actually went through it, right? So in that sense, it's so important for people to understand that you have everything inside of you already. You just need somebody to pull it out of you and help you make sense of what's already there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 99% of the people that I speak to don't know how to put it together, but they have it. They have to because some people have maybe gone to the surface, maybe they've gone to you know, they've been in the shallow, they're afraid to walk into the deep a little bit. It's hard to walk into the deep.
Yeah.
In your messaging and in your delivery, it's hard to walk into the deep because you know what? It does create emotion. And a lot of us are trying to avoid the emotion. We're trying to avoid the hardship. But that's the stuff, in all honesty, is what connects people. I remember there was when we did this center stage on day 2, we took people on center stage. So the people that actually came as the participants, day 1, they sat in keynotes and panelists. Day 2, I did a training, and then the second half of day 2, they went and spoke. One of the people that came up, she said to me, she goes, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. She goes, I don't know what I'm going to say. And we worked on the framework, and we just worked on the first 5 minutes. I said, all right, stop real quick. I'm going to ask you 4 things. What's scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, right? And I go down a few things. She named everything that she was going to say. I said, now go ahead and deliver it. And she had talked herself out of wanting to speak about it because it was emotional. Then when she got up and actually delivered her message, I think everybody in the room was in tears. I could understand why she felt the way she felt, because she was talking about that. Have you ever gotten the phone call, hey, dad passed away? And when she said that, it was like, whoa, that's not a regular phone call. That's a hard one. And that was the motivation behind her becoming a dietitian, because she got the phone call. She realized that 1 week she was with dad, and the next week he was no longer there.
I absolutely love that. And just by connecting to her message, going to that deep place.
100%.
And also, I hear you saying there's a difference in just talking at people. You're not, to be an authoritative speaker, you don't have a megaphone in your hand. You're having a dialogue with the people in the room.
100%.
She started with a question.
Yeah.
And in bringing that person into a conversation, even if you're on stage, it's still a conversation.
100%.
So,
100%.
Benny,
It's just a different level or a different layer of the conversation. But you're absolutely right.
yeah, absolutely. It can't be one way. That's not authority. A two-way conversation has authority because you're connecting a heart to a heart and a message to a message, and you're bringing feeling to it, and that brings that authority. Benny, I absolutely love this. Thank you for the time here.
Yeah.
That's such a great message on bringing your authority, going to the deep place, and then boiling it down. What's an easy way for you to say it? And then what is a frame, like you said, what's the framework you can walk into so you can be totally in the moment and you're not going, what's my script and what are the words that I need to remember? You can just express it heart to heart.
Yep, 100%.
Thank you for the time. Hey, everybody, Speak More Academy, center stage. You will love working with Benny Salas. So, Benny, thank you for the time. I can't wait to have you on the show again, buddy.
You got it, man.
All righty. All right, everybody, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that, from Deirdre to Benny. I mean, just two authorities and powerhouse coaches on how to bring authority. Thank you for the time. I love you, and I'm going to see you next week.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.